Hello everyone! In this video we're going to solve a couple examples related to functions in Python. Now, the first exercise that I've chosen for you is this. It says, write a function called caseChange that given a string, it returns another string with each uppercase letter replaced by a lowercase letter and vice versa. Okay, basically, if we enter, for example, Python, our function needs to return Python. So basically, each uppercase letter should be replaced by a lowercase letter, and each lowercase letter should be replaced with an uppercase letter. And if we have any other characters which are not letters, we should leave them as they are, okay? Now, a couple of things to have in mind before solving this exercise. In this exercise, we are going to use inside our functions some other functions which are built-in functions. These functions are already built, so we are just going to use them. We need a function to check if a letter is lowercase or uppercase, and also functions to convert from lowercase to uppercase and vice versa. And basically these functions are isUpper is a function which will check if a letter is an uppercase letter. IsLower is a function which will check if a letter is a lowercase letter. And upper will convert from lowercase to uppercase, and lower will convert from lowercase to uppercase. Okay, so these are the things that we have to keep in mind. Now, let's continue with solving the exercise. We will use def to define our function, and then it is specified that our function needs to be called caseChange. So basically, we are going to place that in here, and then our function will take as argument a string. Okay, so basically a string. Now, what will we do? We are going to solve the exercise by constructing another string from the given string. How can we do so? We can initially create a string that is equal to an empty string. So it is empty, it does not have anything. Then we will use a for loop to check each character in the given string. And while doing so, we will convert from uppercase to lowercase and vice versa. And in the moment that we convert, we will add the character into this string by using the plus operator. So basically, we are concatenating the strings, okay? So we need the for loop for character in string. So for each character in the string that is given as an argument, we will check if this character is upper. If it is, then we will convert it into a lowercase. And after we convert it into a lowercase, we are going to add it into the string that we are constructing, okay? Else, if my character is a lowercase letter, what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert it into an uppercase letter, and then I'm going to add it into the string that I am constructing. And if it is neither uppercase, neither lowercase, then I'm just going to add it into my string as it is. Now, after the for loop finishes its execution, we will have constructed the entire string. We just need to return the string back to the caller, so return s. And now our function is complete. We can try and we can see how it works. Okay, so basically I'm using a string s and I'm going to set it to the value that our function will return. So we will call our function caseChange. I forgot a character in the function definition. It's not a problem, just to make it look better, okay? And then I'm going to pass as a string, for example, Python. I'm going to pass Python. Okay, so I have a first lowercase, and then I have some uppercases, and then lowercases again. I'm going to put some exclamation marks, and then a space, and then I'm going to put hey, all in uppercase. Now, if I try to print S will be the result that is returned by the function, and I try to run this, I will get the result as Python hey, but in this time the first letter is an uppercase, in here it is a lowercase, then we have 3 uppercases in here, and in the result we have 3 lowercases, and so on. At the end we have hey in the lowercase because it was in an uppercase when we gave it as an argument. So our function does the job correctly. Now, let's go on with the second exercise. Let's just remove this part here. In the second exercise, we are required to write a function which is called matches. So our function is called matches, and it takes 2 strings as arguments, and it will return how many matches there are between the strings. A match is where the 2 strings have the same character at the same index. And we have an example here. For example, I have Python and I have path, and each string starts at index 0, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this case. Now the first string is longer and the second string is shorter. And what we're basically saying here is that if the character at position 0, or at position I in general, of the first string is equal to the character at that position in the second string, then we have a match. Our job is to find the number of matches in this string. So basically in here, P is in position 0 in the first string and in position 0 in the second string. T is in position 2 in the first string and in position 2 in the second string. So again, a match. H is in position 3 in the first string and in position 3 in the second string. So again, a match. We have 3 matches here, and our function should return 3. Okay, how can we write a function to perform this? Well, there are a couple things that we should keep in mind. First of all, let me return this. Okay. First of all, of course, we need to use the for loop because we need to go through each of the characters to determine whether that character is in the other string or not. Another thing that we should keep in mind is, for example, if this is P here is an uppercase, then both of these are the same character, even though one is uppercase and the other one is lowercase. So what can we do? We can convert both strings to uppercase or both strings to lowercase, okay? Another thing that we should keep in mind is that, see this example in here, the second string is shorter than the first string. So basically we need to compare until the end of the shorter string, because if we would try to access an element or a character at the second string that is in index 4 or index 5, then we will get an error because our index will be out of range, okay? Now, what we need to do, we need to calculate the length of the both strings, we need to compare them, and then we will take the length of the shortest string to use as a condition in our for loop, okay? Now, I hope the things don't seem confusing to you, but we will clear them up in a bit, okay? We will start to write our function. We will use def for define, and then the name of our function will be matches. Our function will take 2 strings as arguments. The first string, string 1, and the second one, which will be string 2. Now, what we need to do, first, let's convert both of the strings to lowercase. So basically, string 1 and string 2 dot lower. Now that we converted both strings to lowercase, what we need to do, we need to find the length of each string. So the length of string 1, let's call it L1, it will be equal to the len of string 1. We are calculating the length of a string by using a built-in function, which is a function len. We don't have to write our own function to calculate the length of the string, since we already have this function, and why not to use it, okay? It is easier for us. And then L2 will be equal to length of the string 2. Now what we need to do, we need to compare the length of string 1 with the length of string 2. We need to find the minimum of them to use in the for loop. How can we find the minimum? We can use another built-in function, which is called min. It is easier for us to use this function. We can find it ourselves. It's also easier, but let's just use this function, okay? The min function will take as arguments L1 and L2, which are basically two numbers which are the length of the strings, and will determine which of them is smaller. The smaller, or the minimum, will assign to a variable that I'm going to call m. Now, to make this a little shorter, I'm just going to get this piece of code in here, and I'm going to remove the variable L1, and I'm going to get this chunk in here, place it in here, and remove the variable L2. So this may seem a little bit confusing, but I hope you understand it since I already explained what I did. I just replaced L1 with the length of string 1. This is basically a number. This is basically a number. And this is also a number, so we are just finding the minimum of those two numbers, okay? Now, what we need to do, we need a variable. This variable I'm going to call match. In this match variable, we are going to store the number of matches in the two strings. It should be initially 0, since at the beginning we don't know whether the strings have matches or no, okay? And now we need the for loop. For I in range m. So basically, I will start from 0 till the length of the shortest string. We will check if the character at position I in the first string is equal to the character at position I in the second string. In this case, we have a match at that position. And how we're going to note this? By incrementing the variable match with 1. Now, when this for loop will finish its execution, we will have calculated the number of matches in our two strings. What do we have to do? We just have to return the match back to the caller from the function. So the function performed this task, its task calculated the match, and then we just return this match, okay? Now it's time for us to test this function. Let's just use the strings that are given to us in the question, and I'm just going to print the result directly, and I will print matches. I will call the function, and I will pass its arguments Python and path. Now remember, the result should be 3. Let's run this and see the result is 3. Now let's try to put an uppercase letter in here and an uppercase letter in here. Now, as we see, the result is 2. Why is 2? Well, we forgot to do something in here. We converted string 1 to lower, but we forgot to assign it again to string 1. And here, we should assign it again to string 2. Now, if we run the program, we will see that the result will be 3, even though we entered an uppercase H and a lowercase h in here. Okay, so this is it, guys, for these exercises. I hope you enjoyed the video and you understood something from it. Thank you.